All right, let's get right into it. We've all heard it a million times. A university degree is your golden ticket to a better career. But what if the single most important skill you're supposed to learn isn't actually on the syllabus? Today, we are digging into some really fascinating research that uncovers this hidden gap between having the skills and actually getting credit for them. And this right here is the big one. It's the question on pretty much everyone's mind, from students looking at a mountain of debt to parents trying to figure out the best path. In today's world, is a degree really worth that huge investment of time and money? Well, the answer is a lot more complicated than you might think. And this slide shows you exactly why it's so confusing. On one hand, you've got the official promise graduates earn, on average, a solid 10 grand more every year. Sounds great. But then you look at the reality. Almost half, 49%, of recent graduates are actually working in jobs that don't even require a degree. So what's the real story here? This clash of data is really at the heart of the whole debate. It tells us that maybe we're not asking the right questions, and the picture is way, way more nuanced than just a simple yes or no. And you know who's really feeling this disconnect? The students themselves. Check this out. In 2018, about a third of students felt their degree was poor value for money. Okay, but just 3 years later, that number jumped to a staggering 50%. Half. The very people paying for the education are feeling less and less sure about its worth. So your next thought might be, okay, maybe it just depends on where you go. You know, the big name, prestigious universities, that's the safe bet for a high salary, right? Well, that's what you think. But when you actually look at the numbers, you find a massive surprise. Take a look at this. This table measures something called actual value. Basically, it's the difference between what a graduate actually earns and what they were expected to earn based on their background. And look at the top 5. Portsmouth, Aston, Newman. These are not the household names you might expect. This tells us something huge. Value isn't just about prestige. It's about how much an institution can actually boost a student's potential. And that brings us to the absolute core of this research. The problem might not be that graduates are lacking skills at all. The real problem might be something else entirely, a hidden barrier that the researchers call the articulation gap. So what on earth is the articulation gap? Well, think of it like this. It's the massive canyon between having a skill and being able to prove you have it. You might be a brilliant problem solver, a fantastic team player, but if you can't actually explain that to an employer in an interview, it's almost like you don't have the skill at all. And this quote just nails it, doesn't it? It's not a skills gap, it's a communication gap. Students are leaving university with this incredible toolbox full of skills, but they haven't been taught how to open it up and show someone else what's inside. So that leads to a really crucial question. If this is a communication problem, is it something you can fix? Can you actually teach someone how to articulate their skills? Well, researchers at the University of Kent decided to find out. So here's the setup. They took a group of 29 management degree apprentices. These are people who are already working and studying for their degree at the same time. And for 10 weeks, they put them through this special module designed to do one thing: help them see, understand, and, most importantly, talk about their skills. And the module itself was pretty clever. It had 4 key parts. First, they started with a skills audit, basically figuring out what they already had in their toolkit. Then they were given actual models for how to reflect on those skills. You know, the how. After that, it was all about practice, 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 getting them to talk and write about their abilities. And finally, they got feedback from each other, which is just a fantastic way to build confidence. Now, the whole experiment was based on this idea called work-based learning. And this is so important because it's not just abstract classroom theory. These apprentices could learn a new way to talk about their skills on Monday and literally go use it in a meeting at their job on Tuesday. It's learning in the real world. So, the million-dollar question, did it work? Did this 10-week crash course in skill articulation actually make a difference? Well, to find out, the researchers just sat down and listened to the students themselves. And the feedback they got back wasn't just, yeah, it was pretty good. It was transformative. The students talked about this fundamental shift in how they saw themselves and what they were capable of. The very first thing that came up, and maybe the most powerful, was a feeling. When one participant was asked what changed, they just said it simply. They felt more confident. This wasn't just about learning a new trick. It was a deep boost in self-belief. And then came the aha moment. Another student pointed out that these formal models for reflection, They'd never seen anything like them before. Think about that. They'd probably been told to reflect on their work 100 times, but this was the first time anyone had actually shown them how. And here is where it all clicks into place. This final piece was about connecting the dots between the classroom and the office. This apprentice said the module was 1,000,000 times better at showing them how to apply university learning to their actual work projects. It closed that gap we've been talking about. So, if you boil it all down, 3 huge themes popped out. The students felt more confident and more capable. They started using reflection as a real, practical tool, and, for maybe the first time, they saw a powerful, direct connection between what they were learning at uni and their actual careers.
Okay, so you might be thinking it was only 29 students. And you're right, it was a small study. But the implications, they are absolutely huge for students, for universities, and for employers everywhere.
So, what are the big lessons here? First, just knowing you have skills isn't enough. Being able to talk about them is the final, crucial step. Second, reflection isn't some vague idea. It's a real skill that has to be taught. Third, that peer feedback loop, it's an absolute game changer for building confidence. And finally, learning is just so much more powerful when you can see exactly how it connects to your future goals. Really, what this all proves is that for a degree to have real-world value, universities can't just throw information at students. They have to intentionally teach them the meta skill of how to talk about what they've learned. It's about teaching them to be the narrator of their own story, not just the library where the books are stored. And that leaves us with one final, pretty pointed question. And it's not just for students or universities. It's for every single one of us. Because at the end of the day, if you can't articulate your own value, how on earth can you expect anyone else to see it?